What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and we're going to somewhere we haven't been, for the past probably year since we've covered this track. It is the Charlestown Classic card on a beautiful Friday night for horse racing. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. I greatly appreciate it. Of course, as always, if you guys enjoy the podcast, please go down below the video player here on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it because not only is it 100% free to do and the best way to help out our channel, but it also pushes these videos and other podcasts that we post out into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring more horse players to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you. As you see scrolling on the bottom of the screen right now, you can see our normal podcast schedule for every single week throughout the year. We have Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Bettin N Boozin, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern with Picks and Ponies with Howard, Pete, and Paul. And of course, through the end of the Del Mar meet, you have Pacific Horse Players with Noah, Ryan, and Jackson at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, check everyone out as we have big cards, especially tomorrow with Picks and Ponies at 8 p.m. Eastern. We have the Travers Day card scheduled for you guys. And of course, Pacific Horse Players will cover Del Mar as well. So if you're betting this Saturday, definitely don't want to miss those two shows, as well as our show tonight, talking Friday night racing at Charlestown in West Virginia. Again, guys, this is an all stakes, all mandatory payout, no carryover. Late PICK5 is how it's listed. And honestly, guys, these races are very, very good, very competitive fields. Again, you have Travers Weekend. You're not going to get any of those types of horses, but you also won't get any 5-horse fields around here at Charlestown. I should preface that you get one, but that's all you get. Of course, I guess that's all you get in Saratoga. You know what? I throw it up in the air. Forget whatever I said. But anyway, guys, I see everyone commenting in the chat. And of course, today for everyone, the boss man's birthday, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone posting the live chat. Happy birthday, of course, to our founder, Howard Kravitz, as he turns a ripe old 29 today. So cheers to Howard Kravitz. And cheers to the birthday boy himself, as I will bring on our co-hosts here in a second. Listen to all of our podcasts that we post here on the YouTube channel, to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Of course, not only ours on Bettin N Boozin. My beer just totally spilled, by the way. I'll be completely honest with everyone. That's why I'm looking down. But either way, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe over there. If you're more of an audio listener, of course, you can listen to us here on YouTube as well as there. Of course, our short form content platform, both on TikTok and Instagram, at Bettin N Boozin Podcast. So if you're into that type of shorter form content, please go subscribe and follow over on TikTok and Instagram. The Power Picks, guys, still going super strong. $2.11 all time on the ROI since February of 2021. And you're getting that much profit for that long. And it's only $4.99 a weekend. It comes out to $21.60 through Patreon, which is how it's billed. But every single Saturday, you get 2 full tracks sent directly to your email. Price plays, spot plays, PICK5 grids, everything you need to be successful on any given Saturday. We here at the HHH Racing Podcast have you covered with the Power Picks. That's all done again through patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. The link is also in the description below this YouTube video. And if you want to see previous editions of those Power Picks before you buy them, or you just want to learn more about the podcast, please go to our beautiful website, HHHRacingPodcast.com. Again, guys, let's bring on our co-host here. I don't know what Pat's laughing at something in the chat. I think it's our boy who's in the chat right now. I'll bring him on. We'll talk for a little bit. But of course, from the East Coast of New Jersey, Patrick Kunsel, and from the Ohio State University, now in Chicago, Charlie Freeman. Gentlemen, what's going on? How we doing?
Doing well. This is the second year we get to cover this card, isn't it? Second year in a row?
Might be third year in a row now at this point, Pat, considering how old we're being. This show's been going for over 2.5 years, man.
I was going to say, this is becoming the annual B&B Charlestown.
What, it's this? It's the Gulfstream Park Royal Palm Stakes for the Ascots.
The Black-Eyed Susan.
the Black-eyed Susan. Like, dude, we're coming up with with the good old Bettin N Boozin.
We gotta get sponsored by the tracks for just that episode and just have it start to be some special one-off thing where we do something.
I mean, I wouldn't complain. That's for damn sure. But either way, of course, guys. Dude, my beer just spilled all over me. I thought I held that well.
Shake your beer before you like.
I guess so. And someone sabotaged me. I guess I also found the Rogue Yingling in the back of the fridge. So I guess that's probably my punishment for not drinking it earlier. But I thought I held that together pretty well with beer dripping down onto my blanket and legs below me. But either way, guys, appreciate you guys hopping on as always. Katie, of course, was here bright and early, ready. We're boozing and not losing as always. Ralph Conti, Ryan Mistretta, my man, and of course Patrick's friend. Met him at Saratoga. we had a good time. That's for damn sure. Ryan, thanks so much, man, for joining the show. Greatly.
Yeah, Kyle's 0-2 still. I still hasn't, 0-3. Wait, 0-2 or 0-3?
What am I 0-3 for?
Oh, that game on the ping pong table? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. You suck. It's 0-2, by the way. And David, I don't think he's watching this, but if David's watching this, we'll run that back. I promise. That was a rough showing from my part. Of course, the birthday boy, great card at Charlestown on Friday night. Always like betting this card. Lots of angles to look at too. It is, and especially the biggest angle being that a 5.5 bull ring is always the fun. My mom is here. Mom, thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciated. Terry Frank is here. Likes Chucktown, visually a good product. And there's just a ton of people. James, of course, is here. Crush your beer can bets. I don't know. I'm going to have to crush this beer can at some point because, my God. Matt McJunkin, who got Keeneland tickets today? That would be me, my friend. Thank you very much. But we are going the second weekend. I'm actually bringing a couple of members of my family along as well. So it should be a ton of fun. I believe that's the 10th, 11th, and 12th of October, if not that weekend, that we will be there. But of course, guys, let's get right into the handicapping. Cheers to everyone out there. Hopefully everyone's betting and boozing along with us tonight. Right? I want to keep calling it a mandatory payout, which I guess is really what it is, but it's listed as a no carryover PICK5. It's all stakes and it starts in race number 7. And guys, it wouldn't be a good old Chucktown race card if we didn't get to cover a West Virginia bred stakes race. And this one's actually not that bad. And it's got a very nice horse in it. It is the last Enchantment overnight stakes. Of course, for those West Virginia breds, I'm putting on the screen right now, 40,000 on the line, 4.5 furlongs, ladies and gentlemen. Not a distance you see too often, especially for older horses. You see a lot of those babies running Keeneland 4.5, but around the bull ring, they go 4.5, one turn, and it's headed by a very heavy morning line favorite, Duncan, Idaho. Boca Chica rides for Jeff Runco, 4-5 on the morning line. Your second choice is the number 4, Honeyquist, for Mendez and Ferrier at 3-1. And your third choice is number 3, Penguin Power, for Cruz and Runco. One thing you guys will see, not so much obviously with all the invaders here, but you'll notice a lot of Jeff Runco and a lot of Anthony Ferrier. They win basically every single race that's run out here. Right? I swear to God, it's like 60% that they win, I think, of those races together. But of course, that's not how math works. But if you combine their two percentages, it's 60%. You'll put it on the screen right now, guys. These first two races will go by pretty quick. This one is at least interesting for horses underneath. I have the 5. You think that's funny for Ferrier, and so does Charlie at 6-1 in second. I have Penguin Power, and you guys both have Honeyquist, and you think that's funny. Pat, I'll let you talk first. Again, there's not too much to talk about. A lot of these horses, as a lot of these West Virginia breds do, especially at the stakes level, they run against each other all the time. And last time out for Duncan, Idaho, and the rest of the gang, it was no different.
Yeah, this horse is pretty cool, right? 14 for 21 lifetime on a 4-race win streak. He just is kind of beat up on his competition. They really haven't put him in any uncomfortable situations. I don't know. I just couldn't get away from this guy, especially getting the outside draw in here. He just wins any which way he wants against these fellow horses that he faces quite often. But I don't know if you guys have any other angles on this guy, but 4 to 5 might be a gift in this spot.
Yeah, and Charlie, I'm going to play this race because, again, you have 5 of the 6 runners in here coming back in this race, including a horse that we like, and the number 5, you think that's funny, who's also the 5 in this spot. The number 2, Honeyquist here, who's the 4, who a bunch of us have in there. Just, again, a lot of these West Virginia breds, they kind of beat up on each other throughout the year. But Duncan Idaho, the horse you're looking for, is the number 1 to the inside.
Yeah, and for me, the reason I ended up with this one on top is I just think the versatility makes this one really dangerous. I mean, you look at Duncan Idaho, obviously last time, they had a hot pace and still was basically on or near the lead the entire time, and then was able to win by a length and a half, which, for a race this short, all things considered, is a decent margin. But even if you look at some of the other efforts, right, you look at the effort 3-back where the horse in a race, again, that was only 4.5 furlongs, was 6th by almost 7 lengths and then went on to narrowly win. You look at the race before that, was off the pace and was able to win. I know the horse lost in November of 24, but again, off the pace and lost by a nose. So for me, what I really like about Duncan Idaho is he seems naturally about as quick as pretty much any horse besides maybe the 4 in this race. But if, there is some sort of speed rule and a bunch of them are trying to push too hard in the lead, Duncan Idaho is also happy to sit right off of them and let them go too fast. So I just think that versatility, I don't know if that's what you and Pat felt as well, but for me, that's what I think truly separates him from this field. It's some of these other ones clearly have one way to go, and he really can go any which way.
Yeah, and the thing is that a lot of these, the reason I love these little 4.5ers is because it's a lot like the low sal, the 1000s that you see, that a lot, Noah Jackson and all the, and me and you guys and all of us will like one of these. That let them go, and it's just a bunch of this. Like, it's just asking all the way around the track. But Duncan Idaho, I agree with you, Charlie. And the thing is that hot pace, cold pace, he can win it any which way, which is probably very designated of the 4 to 5 that he's listed on the morning line. If the 4 goes, who's the other horse that a lot of you guys have in there in Honeyquist, granted, again, a lot of these 4.5, they just turn into a brawl, and whoever ends up on top wins. This is one of the very rare ones that I see that it doesn't have a hot pace extended with it. It actually favors front runners according to time form. And I'll tell you what, if the 4 goes out, the 8 sits right behind, 4 to 5 might be a gift in this spot. At least for me, I don't think you're going to get 4 to 5 on this horse. I think you'll probably get less. Again, there's not too much to say about him. He's really just been the West Virginia bred going this 4.5 for the entirety of this year. He's on all the races in 2025 for him. He's won 4 for 4. Never really looked like a loser in any of them. You can argue this one right here, this allowance where he only got up by 3/4, but still did it as easy as possible. And if he's just going to sit right off one leader and go by, it's going to be very hard. Boca Chica wins 35%. Jeff Runco wins 29% on the win end. I believe together, the number is it's 33% together out of 279 starts. So it's going to be.
I would say these remind me of like Ravelli numbers in Arlington. With, with Jareth Loveberry. Like these are pretty absurd numbers.
It's exactly the way it goes. But Ferry is not too far to leave behind, guys. 93 for 342, 27%. Charlie, you and I both have this horse in second. Again, Pat, you have this horse in third. Again, they all ran against each other last time, so there's not a whole lot you can say, but there's a lot of horses that are going to be coming from behind in theory, and if there's one that has to do it without a hot pace, I feel like you think that's funny could be that one to sneak in the exacta.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the other part for me is, obviously the 4 and 5 both being trained by the same trainers of note. And I think my one concern with the 5 obviously would be being 7 years old. That being said, there's already an older field, and I just feel like even if the 4 gets on the lead, as we talked about with the versatility of the 8, I think that's why I put the 4 in third, and I have concerns to just put the horse a little lower, is I feel like if there's any sort of chance that the 4 is trying to go too slow, I think Duncan Idaho is just going to make the horse work too hard and stay close enough to keep him honest at all times, and that the 5 could just be the one who sits right off of them patiently and basically just says, if you two want to, go at it. Now, because of the repeated success of the 8, I don't trust that the 5 actually gets the better of him, but I do think potentially the 8 could wear on the 4 enough that the 5 gets up for second. And then again, I think the flip side, though, is just if for whatever reason they try to, the 4 maybe try to slow it down together, I still think the 8 gets the just maybe that's where the 4 finishes second, but it really just feels like it's inevitably 8 over one of those two.
Yeah, and I agree with that. The only other horse that I want to talk about real quick is Penguin Power. This is one that's run very considerable numbers at the allowance, and it's only had 2 starts this year. Going to be off a little bit of a layoff, which is why I couldn't have this horse any higher. However, runs anything back to 78 or 79 that he's ran last year, easily in the running for at least the trifecta, although this is pretty, I mean, I love this stuff, man. This horse is 10 years old and still doing it about as good as he has been in the last 3 years alone. So, and they're competitive, man, you know, but again, it feels almost sacrilegious a little bit to bet, unless you're betting Arlington or I guess Charlestown for that matter, to bet a 10-year-old at what's probably going to be 9-2 or something around that middling price. But again, this is what we come for, guys. Chucktown get the 4.5 state breds, but the 8 I was about to say Dublin, Idaho. Duncan, Idaho looks very, very tough in the first race on Friday. I'm going 8-5-3. Pat's going 8-4-5. Charlie's going 8-5-4. Guys, we spent little time on that race. We're going to spend even less on this race. This is the Pink Ribbon Stakes, guys, and you don't get 5 horses. I was right when I did the intro. You get 4. How about that? And you get 4. Misty Bennett, Pink Ribbon Stakes, guys. It's 7 furlongs for the girls, and my girl shows up. The number 2, Vava, 3-5 on the morning line. By far the heavy favorite, but you're going to have 1 to contend with. Number 4, Mystic Lake, Tyler Gaffleone, Safi Joseph, 8-5 on the morning line. And the Louisiana bred rounds out the top 3, and Free Like a Girl, BJ Hernandez picks up the mount. And as I bring up our picks, fantastic, guys. I'm so proud of all of you. Look, guys, there's not much to say in this race. Charlie, I'll let you go first. Pat, you can add anything you want to add. And we're just going to move on. There's really not too much to say. Charlie, Mystic Lake looks to have a decent pace advantage, but Vava's not going to be very far away. And if she's not, this might be a very tough day for everyone else that's not the number 2.
Yeah, I just think the other thing is I know Mystic Lake's only 4, but I'm just not sure she's the same horse to me visually. And you look at where she's been placed as well. I mean, it was pretty clear when they, ran her at Churchill that they were still hoping she could be that same horse. And, maybe it just didn't work that day, but I just feel like it speaks volumes to see where they put her since. That being said, she is going to be on the lead. But like you said, Vava's one who, I mean, you just look at the, the resume alone, has only been running in just the best of the best races. Obviously had that slight dip in form where, I know, Kyle, you were starting to get concerned, or basically a race away from divorce papers. And then after that, just as you're about to finally move on from her, she just, wins your heart right back again. And now I know you'll inevitably be betting her until she retires. But I just think Irad's going to work out a perfect trip with her. They'll sit close enough to Mystic Lake to never let her get too far. I think we clearly saw that, Vava still isn't in great form, and seen why Cherie still has been running her for the most part against the best of the best in a lot of grade 1s. Obviously get some relief here, and it's a small field, but I just don't see how she doesn't just keep that 4 within touching distance, and then Vava goes by.
Yeah, and obviously, the thing that we didn't touch on at the start of the race, Pat, is that 7 furlongs, right? This is a 2-turn race at Charlestown. It starts from the front stretch, and it's not only is it 2 turns, you could basically get the Kentucky Derby start. You get the chute on the inside, and they just go around, which is honestly really cool just because of the 5.5 furlong bull ring style. But yeah, I mean, she's going to be very tough to beat if she keeps Mystic Lake anything within, a couple lengths, you would think.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, Kyle, about 7 furlongs being 2 turns, because I don't know about you guys, but when handicapping these races, we're going to go through a couple more here where they are 7 furlongs and they're going around 2 times, maybe even 3. So I don't know how you guys handicapped it, but you do have to take that into consideration if a horse, quote unquote, likes 2 turns. I would, you would think. But yeah, in this spot, Mystic Lake, I'll talk more about her. Listen, Safi sends his horses all over the place. He kind of likes to find sometimes softer spots, let's say. But this horse's run consistent, just hasn't really beaten anybody, that great. Maybe, beat Emery in the inside information at Gulfstream, in January, but just, I don't know. I just can't back her in here. So at the end of the day, I'm just going to go with Vava. But obviously has won at this track in a race that we're going to cover later on. But
Yeah.
it's funny that this is going to be like one of those races where, if you were playing a contest, right, you would hopefully pound and double into this race.
Yeah, and obviously, like, I wouldn't say that she's completely out of it by any means. I mean, she gets loose and Vava just can't catch her. There's no reason why she can't win. I mean, if she runs anything like she did in the winter, she could easily get the pounce on Vava in here. But Mystic Lake was my best bet of the entire day last year in the Charlestown Oaks when she ran off the screen.
Yeah.
Winning by 5 3/4 at 6-1. That was by far my best play of this day last year. However, again, it's just hard to trust a horse like this. But again, it's also hard to trust Vava at 3-5. The only other horse really that has any type of shot, no disrespect to Save Time for Safi, that would be a very big stretch if she were to win this, but it would also be kind of a big stretch for number 3, Free Like a Girl. Look, Chasey Pommy has done a fantastic job with her, campaigning her around. She's a $2.5 million winner, and out of a $5,500 purchase, might I add. Louisiana bred, won everything there is basically for the Louisiana bred mares. Now has been shipping around. She ran good in the Azeri Stakes. She ran good in the Apple Blossom, both disrespected both times, I should say. Didn't run well in the La Troyenne, didn't really run well in the Shawnee, even though they did slow it down on her in that race. This is now a cutback for her. However, we obviously know she likes 2 turns, but she hasn't run anything under 2 turns at a 1.16 miles since last winter, where she wasn't exactly running her best races. However, she's won at the 7 for floor. You can see the distance right here. These are a lot of Louisiana bred stakes, but she's 4 for 6 on the distance, 6 for 6 in the money. So again, one thing to consider for sure, even if she might be just a cut below the top 2 in here. In the pink ribbon, we're all going 2, 4, 3. No surprises there. Now, guys, we'll start a little bit more of some fun stuff, if you will. It is the Robert Hilton Memorial Stakes, going again 7 furlongs, 500,000 on the line for this one. And this is a very nice race and a very wide open race with the returning 2 Kentucky Derby starters, including the Kentucky Derby pool winner for us, might I add, Pat, in the number 7, Owen Almighty being the morning line favorite.
Who won that? Who won that contest? That
really wasn't, it wasn't posted anywhere, it wasn't said, but last time I checked, 2 pretty sharp guys won that, if I'm not mistaken. Again, thanks to this horse right here, finishing 5th in the Kentucky Derby. Gaff Leone hops on for Brian Lynch at 5-2. Neil Equos is your second choice. Again, another Derby starter. Irad Ortiz hops aboard. Safi Joseph, 7-2 on the morning line. And the number 8 Gunmetal is your third choice. Luis Saez hops aboard for Brad Cox at 4-1. Putting our picks up on the screen right now, and we're finally not going with all the same 3 horses, guys. I'm so proud of us. We are going with 3 different horses on top, for that matter. I'm going with the number 8 Gunmetal. Pat's going with number 7 Owen Almighty, and Charlie's going with the Gulfstream Mr. South Beach. Never would have guessed anything different. But Pat, gonna go to you first, as you do have the morning line favorite on top. Owen Almighty's, again, he ran actually very good in the Kentucky Derby and has run well in the past, but arguably his best races have been run at the sprinting distance, even though you're going 2 turns in this one.
Yeah, that's very true, Kyle. It's funny. When going through this race, I would have never thought I would have landed on Owen Almighty, just, with everything that we've gone through with this horse. But I really think this is, obviously it's going to be off a bit of a layoff, but Owen has done well off a layoff, doing that out of the Iroquois and then into that Tampa race. I just think this horse is going to be ready to go. Has had a nice couple breezes at Churchill. Lynch is known to be good off the layoff, and I think this horse will go wire to wire. I mean, I know we talk about the inside speed. This horse is going to have to want to get to the lead because that's really the only way he's really won. I mean, early on he's won from off of it, but he was up there at a pretty quick pace. And I believe that he's going to want to do that again in this race, guys. I don't know what you think of Owen, but I do think that this horse kind of is going to be an interesting face going later in the year, because it's going to open him up. If he could win this race, it's going to open up to some, bigger races. I would think going one turn.
At least, yeah, at the sprinting distance for sure. Charlie, the biggest thing that jumps out at me here, and granted, they are coming from, routes to sprints now, coming from the Kentucky Derby, but you have Owen Almighty and Neo Equus fourth last and third last, according to the time form. And if Neo Equus is that far back, I would be very surprised. But again, you're talking about the difference between 2-turn speed and 1-turn speed. But I'll tell you what, Charlie, even though you guys both have speed, there's a lot of 1-turn speed in here.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the other thing we have to talk about at some point for Owen Almighty, then I'll go more into Neo Equus, is also, where's he been? Like that for me was the big hesitancy I had for why I just couldn't get myself to put him on top. Is you look at a lot of the other horses in coming out of the Kentucky Derby, and they've all been coming back, whether it's within the Triple Crown races or other big graded stakes. I mean, we just haven't seen this horse. Now, I understand they had admitted at the time it was already overambitious to run him that long, and they were debating to run him at all. And he ended up running up. You could see he was gasping for air, basically crawling in the stretch at the end, and still hung on. So obviously he wants his cutback, but that's my biggest concern, is just where has he been? So yeah, moving into Neo Equus, though, my top pick. This is a horse, Kyle, where I'm kind of almost going with the opposite argument of what you talked about with Mystic Lake with Safi, which gives me a lot of hope for Neo Equus. Because what you sort of touched on with him, which I do agree is fair, is he tends to both intentionally almost leaning on Gulfstream too much, especially during like the summer, as well as other tracks, put his horses repeatedly, in some easier spots to build them up. And look, I understand, obviously, he went to the Jersey Shore, which isn't a big race at Monmouth, and dominated. But my counter argument on that with this one specifically would be that after the Kentucky Derby, where he already was, the longest shot on the board, I think, or right around there, then Safi decides, even though he didn't really run well there, let's take him to the Woody Stevens. Like, to me, instead of leaving the Derby and then going to some smaller race and quickly, the fact that he immediately took him to a loaded grade one like the Woody Stevens just tells me that Safi and C2 Racing Stable still have very strong belief in this horse and believe he can be at that level. And maybe this is his way of rebuilding him back up to that level. So for me, the fact that he took that kind of chance, though, speaks volumes. And I also think this, with being 2 turns, can be the right distance for him. And I think he's a very versatile horse that can sort of sit anywhere. I mean, we talked about how we expect him to be forward and this and that. But, something he's proved, at least to me, more consistently. I understand Owen Almighty got away within the Derby. I still thought that was kind of fluky. Like, you look at when he ran in the Florida Derby against Tapan Street and Sovereignty, which might age as, one of the better preps we saw, that when they had a decent pace, he sat on the lead pretty much the entire time there and stuck with it. Even in the Fountain of Youth, stuck with it the whole time and finished narrow. Like, he didn't really fade back. Yep. He stayed with it the entire time. So I just feel like he's going to sit a little closer than they say, and I think he's going to have plenty turning for home and be close enough to go right by.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. It's just a matter of there's a lot of speed in here, and he really hasn't been a horse to pass anybody, along with Owen Almighty for that matter, which is why I have them third and second. I think they're very good. It's just a matter of will they be able to handle that type of pressure up early, and if they can go by horses, by all means, they can absolutely win this race. I went a different way in this one, but this is my divorce paper race, Pat, on Gunmetal. He's been so hard to figure out, because that race at Keeneland, he was so good. Like, there's no sugarcoat how good he was at that 6 at Keeneland. You could argue that 7 might be a little bit too far for him. I'm going in here, and that's my only concern. However, there's just so much speed up front. If he can sit somewhere in the mid-pack and just run by runners on the turn, especially a lot of these local horses, maybe they're just not up to snuff. Owen Almighty and Neo Equus end up taking the lead sometime like middle of the turn. Again, you got to remember that like the quarter pole at Charlestown is probably above the final turn. So you kind of got to go a little bit earlier on these horses, but with a lot of the local runners maybe backing a little bit out of it, Gunmetal just seems like the perfect horse to take a step forward in here and just and pass everybody down the stretch. Again, I understand how he's been really not that good at all, especially going 7 furlongs, but this will be the divorce papers for me, Pat. If he does not run well in here, I can't be backing him anymore. But you should get paid decently enough to find out, especially with the 2 Derby runners in here who will take a lot of money. Of course, it's Brad Cox, it's Luis Saez. Of course, they will take money as well, but you still should get a nice price of the third choice. And if you do, I'm very interested to find out whether Gunmetal is good enough to run this type of two-turn race at Charlestown. Pat, you have Just a Fair Shake, 20-1 in second as well. And we're talking about these local runners running in Mountaineer in the West Virginia Derby. Didn't run that bad at all. And Daniel McKenzie, who's normally a mid-Atlantic trainer, does a lot of running up in Maryland at Laurel, now ships down here. He's going to ship with intent, and obviously you're getting a very nice price to try and figure out if this horse can sneak somewhere in the exacta.
Yeah, listen, the numbers fit. Just the question is this horse going to like, kind of this track and the way it usually plays, right? It's going to be, I would think, coming from out of it, has been running from off the pace in previous races, but then you go back a ways, and this horse was on or near the lead. So I don't know. I think the numbers that he's been running of recent make him fit in here, Kyle. And that's why I have him in here, just because Neo Equos, I liked, what was it? Two back in the, was it the Woody Stevens?
Yep.
Yeah. I liked in the Woody Stevens, but I just, I don't know. I kind of lost interest. So I'm trying to catch a price underneath. And I think Just a Fair Shake at 20-1 that's crazy high. So I'm going to put this horse in play definitely underneath. I'm hoping to get half of that, I would think.
I mean, he ran very well going 1 mile at Laurel back early in his or late, sorry, in the 2-year-old deal, but early for him. Ran in the Laurel Futurity, just ended up losing by 2 lengths to Pascaline, who's a very nice horse out in Maryland. Again, lots of things to like. And 20-1, again, it's well worth taking a shot. So hopefully he can sneak in the exacta for Pat. The only other horse I want to talk about is the number 2, Tres Coronas. Charlie, you can take the lead on this one, being the Mr. South Beach that you are. Again, you're talking about Gulfstream Park in the summer. However, those buyers, they stand out.
Yeah, and again, for me, it was the Gulfstream sicko who knows the times. I know even if the track is playing decently fast that day, to have 109.1 and 109.4 is really damn fast for 6 furlongs at Gulfstream, especially for horses at that kind of level. And I mean, you can see as a horse who, it debuted in 2024 at almost 30-1. And honestly, no disrespect, but the reality is not for that big of connections. And then comes back off that long of a layoff and got hammered down in that race. So clearly the public had known something with the way this horse had been working at the time, and then replicated that effort again. I think the big concern for me is I understand it's already a stretch out to 7, which is going to be interesting, but on top of it with being 2 turns, that was my main, because I know this is like the one short price that none of us have anywhere. And, being the South Beach guy, I'm sure people assumed I'd use him, but that's just my main concern. I think his efforts are impressive, and I do love the intent from smaller connections to take this chance and risk, especially because I'm sure there's plenty of Gulfstream lower level, handicaps and stakes they could have ran in. I'm just worried with the pace scenario and stretch out in the 2 turns that it's going to be all too much. But look, if this one does prove all the goods and, you can see the works are still showing it wouldn't shock me. I just think the pace scenario isn't ideal.
I mean, it's just that he's never really faced that much pace pressure in his life. And when he did, that was, again, first time out last year at 2, but he ended up fading away a little bit. Obviously has come back super strong 3-year-old year. It's just again, he's doing something that you haven't seen before, and you're getting a middling price that might not be something you want to take a shot at. But if he somehow gets loose, of course he can win. You can say that for a lot of horses in this race. However, you'd have to imagine pace scenario would be able to show itself, at least in this race. I'm going 8-7-3. Pat's going 7-6-8. Charlie's going 3-7-8, and the Robert Hilton Memorial. And guys, now we start to get into the really good stuff. This is the Charlestown Oaks. This is a grade 2, again, penultimate leg of the mandatory payout. No carryover late pick, or PICK5, excuse me. Race number 10. $750,000, guys, on the line. 3-year-old fillies technically sprinting, going 7 furlongs. You can see the field there. It's a field of 10. The number 1, Indy Bay, Irad Ortiz, Safi Joseph, 5-2 on the morning line is your second choice. Excuse me. Sorry. Your morning line favorite is the number 7, Vodka with a Twist. Luis Saez rides. Phil D'Amato ships in at 2-1 for the morning line favorite. And your third choice is number 8, Secret Faith, at 4-2. 1. Putting the picks up on the screen right now. Both Patrick and I are going with the number 1, Indy Bay. Charlie doesn't have that horse anywhere and is going with the morning line favorite, the number 7, Vodka with the Twist. You guys are making my job very easy, as I can switch back and forth between you guys, as Pat had the morning line favorite last race. Now, Charlie, you have the morning line favorite in this race. Talk about why you like the morning line favorite, Vodka with a Twist.
Yeah, the first thing I want to point out, and I promise I'll get into it, is I am very impressed with the ball knowledge, Kyle, that you have the 4 in second, which I'll get to later, but I'm very excited about that.
Great ball knowledge.
So yeah, with Vodka with a Twist, I just ultimately think, keeping it simple, she's the class of the field. Obviously, the slight concern I have is kind of with the form that she'd been in. I understand she didn't end up winning as the favorite 2 back, but kind of why did D'Amato try her on turf? I didn't really understand the move, so that would be my one slight hesitancy is why that move. That being said, again, you look at the form. She's working well, but you look at who she's faced against. I understand some of the numbers are lower, and that kind of number off that big layoff sort of sticks out like a sore thumb compared to the rest. That being said, I just like how well meant she's always been. You look at who she's faced against, and this is just such a drop down in competition compared to what she's faced. I also love that they're getting Louis aboard, and I just feel like in a race like this, where to me, when I was looking, I see a decent amount of pace. Is it a crazy amount of pace? No, but I just think enough that the one horse is going to have to work a little too hard for it. And at the same time, I just don't think the 8, like the other short price, I just don't think she's faced enough to trust her. So for me, I just trust that Louis is going to keep her close enough with Vodka with a Twist, that when they turn for home, she'll be able to make it work. And I just think the 2 turns for 7, which for some of these others might be a little bit of a struggle with the distance, I think it'll work out well for Vodka with a Twist, as a horse who has had plenty of experience running even further in the past. And I feel like the intent here, it just feels like a bizarre spot for D'Amato to put this one here, unless he really likes the spot for it.
I mean, there's no saying that this horse won't run well, Pat. We both have this horse in 3rd. But going back to that, you got the pace scenario here. She's not even going to be on the lead. And if I remember correctly, this is a horse that really hasn't done any type of passing at all. And if she's going to try and gun for the lead, this could be pretty tough on her, especially who's going to be a lower price come post time. However, of course she can win. We've said that a lot about this, but you and I both have the number 1 Indy Bay on top. This was one that I liked at Saratoga and the Jersey Girl at about 5-2. I'm hoping to get that exact number here, Pat. And if she sits just like First Flight from the rail, IRAD aboard, could be exactly what we need.
Yeah, for sure, Kyle. And I think just to reiterate on Vodka with a Twist really quick, she hasn't won in over a year. And I think our morning lines are going to switch. I think we're going to have the favorite in Indy Bay. And that's, listen, Indy Bay was purchased, I believe, after that second start at Oaklawn by C2 Racing Stable, who's obviously a big ownership group with Safi. And I think they knew what they had with this horse, because this horse has just gotten better and better. That horse was not beating Echo Sound in the victory ride.
No one was.
That horse ran an absolute hole in the wind in that race. And I just think, I'm not gonna put a line through it. Obviously, just not that level, but that's obvious. This race is a step down, a step below the victory ride.
Yeah.
And I think Indy Bay, the inside draw, should appreciate this so much. Is going to be forward in here. And I really, really like this horse. If we could get anything of 5-2, Kyle, this is going to be a nice, fun wager.
Well, and I thought that too. And maybe it just might end up being a pick 3 between 9, 10, and 11 for me. But I'll tell you what, Pat, before I get into Indy Bay, this is just a bunch of fantastic stories kind of all melting into one. You have Indy Bay, who was a $19,000 purchase as a yearling in 23, has been 6 for 6 in the money and $249,000 on the win end. Vodka with a Twist was purchased for $2,500, and she's made $723,000, being 8 for 10 in the money. Not to mention a bunch. I mean, this Secret Faith bought for a little more. She made $476,000. I mean, lots of very good stories in this race, and again, lots of low purchase prices running huge for a lot of different connections. So again, just a bunch of different ways you can go in here. I also landed on Indy Bay. That race at Oaklawn Park really sticks out to me, and I took a shot on her at the Jersey Girl, hoping that she she would run back to that, not necessarily bounce back to where she was before. I was lucky enough to be correct, again, only by a head. Ran a 91 victory ride. I agree with you, Pat. Nothing at all was beating Echo Sound that day, and maybe she's just not up to snuff with those. I do agree with you. This is a little bit of a step down, and if she sits perfectly like it's pocket type trip that I think she will, this could be a very nice very nice way to take a shot with the number 1 Indy Bay. Again, you're gonna have to pay the IRAD tax, the invader tax for a track like this. However, I still feel like she's in a perfect spot to be able to take them at the top of the stretch. The only other horses that we have in there that we have not mentioned yet is the other Saffie Joseph runners, really. Paradise City is a horse that was very well meant early, kind of leveled off a little bit. I know it was a horse that Charlie, I, and Bossman have all been on in the past. You got Love You Morgan, who's another Saffie runner. Charlie, you have this horse in third, but I want to talk about the other Saffie. Paradise City's the other Saffie. But Andrea ran a really nice race both times in the game face and the Azalea. In the game face, lost to the number 6, Love You Morgan, who you have in third, but was able to set a little bit nicer, a little bit easier of a trip, and handled the 7 furlongs really well last time.
Yeah, and I will say the odds are a little fascinating to me just because Andrea, ran against Love You Morgan, and Love Morgan obviously lost 2 back, but was, 2-1, while the 6 was 10-1 in that race, and then comes back and yes, the 6 was favored, but beat that horse, and the 6 wasn't all that close, and now is apparently the other Saffie. To me, I think she clearly should be the Saffie, and I do have a feeling on the day of the betting she will be. Now, look, obviously the concern with her is the lack of consistency. Started her career incredibly hot. Won by 6. I know the buyer wasn't great, but still won by 6 lengths, won by 7 lengths, was never really asked, never really working hard. Then got thrown into a little bit of a deeper end against a horse we've already talked about earlier in Echo Sound and just couldn't cut it. Then, ran in, a race against 5G and Unchained and some of these others that were trying to get into the Oaks, which was just, again, way above her level, and she ran a 2. But then came off that layoff, wins by 9 lengths dominantly. Then obviously last time I thought the race to Wick was just a bit of a weird race. They were really walking, which you never see at Gulfstream, didn't really ever get going. But I thought last time visually, she was I was impressed with the effort. I thought, yes, I get it. You just look at the numbers that she was sitting just off and only won by half a length. But I thought they went decently fast there, even though the fractions say otherwise. I mean, almost 44, low 45 for that distance is pretty impressive. She also liked the 7 furlongs a lot more, and I think she'll respond well here. And also just, the angle of buyer, top, back to back and take a step forward. And to me, visually, I saw that potential to step forward here. I think she makes a ton of sense, and we'll get to best bets later. I think this race is one where, yes, it looks like it could just be 1-7 mainly, but I also think there's some of these bigger prices that could be sneaky here where you could make this a spread race and blow it open, and I will definitely be playing this for in some different ways. Oh, muted, unlucky.
I was yawning. That's my own fault. And the fact that you get Jose Ortiz aboard, who's been probably about as good as anyone. I think there's 3 jockeys so far this year that have over 200 wins. The Ortiz brothers are 2 of them. Charlie, you want to guess who the third one is? It's one of your favorites.
It is.
It's one of your favorites.
I don't know what it is.
First name, Look Back.
First name, Look Back.
Paco Lopez is the answer to that. I think
I don't want to hear that. Don't ruin my day.
I think Paco's got like 250 wins only. Sylvain, my man.
That was good, right? His look back on Future Is Now in that turf sprint. Oh my gosh. I will have to admit, I got to give the boss man credit where credit's due. His first reaction to that horse in the stretch when Paco just looks back was hysterical.
Priceless. It's always is, dude. The Paco look backs are a thing of beauty. When you don't want the horse to win and you're like, it's its own thing. It's its own phenomenon. The only horse I want to talk about, Pat, then we'll move on to the Charlestown Classic, is the number 8 Secret Faith. You have this horse in second. Again, fantastic. This is a Louisiana bred who's shipping up here for this race. This is just one of those that I didn't know what to do with, really. I just don't know how good this horse really is, beating up on a lot lesser in these state bred races. But one try in the Fairgrounds Oaks, again, no good, not what she wants to do. You're getting 7 again in here. maybe she really is just the goods and we're all just completely looking over this horse. But obviously you're not. You're willing to take the chance on her in second.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool that they're going to actually give her a chance, out of Louisiana in, open competition in a big race like this. I know running in the Fairground Oaks obviously is pretty big, and didn't really do any running in there. But I think this horse is very, very good and can compete with these. Numbers would say that, she'd have to improve a little bit, but not too far off. And that's kind of why I'm going to give her a chance at this price, 4-1 on the morning line, just because I'm really against Vodka with a Twist. I have her in third, but I won't be playing her at all. If she wins, I lose pretty much.
Yeah, it's one of those defensive types for sure for me as well. But again, Jim brings up a good point. Lost to Kilwin last time. And what did Kilwin come back to do, guys? Of course, last time on dirt for that matter. Kilwin came back. See the West win. Grade 1 winner last time in the test. So again, much tougher for sure, Jim. Completely agree with you. But again, just a little too short of a price, I think, what we're going to get on her for what I'd be wanting. And again, she has a lot of two-turn experience. I think Charlie's nailed that one on the head as well. But the pace scenarios in this race are always murky. And if Indy Bay is going to sit right behind them, I'd much rather have her at a very similar price than Vodka with the Twist. But can, of course, always win. Robin completely didn't run at Parks. The number 10 Volleyball Princess didn't run at Parks for here. Again, you're running for $750,000 in a suspect field for that type of money, for that matter. So can obviously understand why they want to run here, but would be a very tough ask for the number 10 Volleyball Princess, but not completely out of the realm for sure. And Jackson, what's up, my man? I see you in the chat. In the Charlestown Oaks, I'm going 1-4-7. Pat's going 1-8-7. Charlie's going 7-4-6. Guys, onto the feature. But of course, before we get to the feature, if you guys are enjoying the podcast of what you're watching, and you right now, I'm watching you who's watching this right now. If you are enjoying it, go down below the video player, hit the like button for us to show us that you guys are enjoying the podcast. We would greatly appreciate it. And you're already here, so why not subscribe? Why not punch you right in the face? Please.
It's the most serious I've ever seen Kyle been. The way he just pointed at people.
People need to, we gotta get those like numbers up, man. I see it's a little low. We gotta get those up. But of course, guys, the feature of the entire day, what we're all here for, is the Charlestown Classic. It's $1 million, a mile and an eighth. It's a 3-turn mile and an eighth to you. Again, $1 million on the line, field of 8. And the back-to-back Charlestown Classic winner is, of course, here, one of my wife's favorite horses, the number 4, Skippy Longstocking, your 7-5 morning line favorite, Jose Ortiz, Safi Joseph. The second choice in here is the number 7, Willie D's for Luis Saez and Mike Maker at 3-1. And your third choice is the number 1, Banishing, Tyler Gaffleone, David Jacobson at 7-2, guys. And this came up a very good Charlestown Classic, to be completely honest for you. You got the 3-year-olds also running this week in the Travers, got some waiting for the Pennsylvania Derby, but the olders need somewhere to go. And this came up with a pretty decent amount of those good older dirt horses in here, at least going this type of distance. Headed, of course, by Skippy Longstocking. There are 6 graded stake winners in this race, which, again, for a race that at Chucktown, you get all this type of stuff. All things considering, it's a very good race. And Pat, those are some very based picks, my friend. Charlie, I didn't get yours in time. Oh, look at we're so based out here. We are so based, my kings. One's on top for all around for everyone. That is, of course, with the third choice, Banishing, which means we all mushed him to last. I'm very happy for that. But Pat, I'll let you go first, my friend. Look, he's been very good. And with me, Pat, this is my number one thing coming into this race. There's a lot of horses in here that have run bad races, have, trying to look for a little bit of a bounce back. Banishing doesn't have that at all. If anything, he's in one of the best forms he's been in. And if he can bring it to this 1.8 distance, he's got all the chance in the world at hopefully a nice price, at least at about 7-2.
Yeah. This horse, I feel like, is running every 3 weeks, right? It's
Yeah, it is.
unbelievable. Just
It is.
Jacobson just brings this horse back every other, every once a month, runs consistently. I mean, my favorite race with this horse was that 7 furlong race on the slop on Derby Day in the Churchill Downs, losing to Mindframe by a neck. That horse ran gigantic in that race.
Huge.
And I just, I look at this field, guys, and, obviously gets the rail. There's multiple speed horses signed on in here. I don't see why Banishing can't relish, what's going to be out in front of him. Obviously, we're going to need a couple horses in here, considering, Awesome Aaron as one, this 6 trademark and the 7, who was that? Willie D's.
Willie D's.
We need them to go. And we need them to go because we need to make sure that they do push the needle on Skippy Longstocking, who's just in this race just has gotten to the lead and has never looked back, right? It's unbelievable. But
more times than one, Pat. I'll tell you that much.
But I'm really happy that Jacobson brings Banishing in on this spot. And I think should, love 3 turns and just hopefully like I said, get that trip off all those speeds that I mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely with you, Pat. Obviously, Charlie is as well. I mentioned, there's a lot of things going right for this horse for me in this spot. Also, again, I mentioned, though, my concern with the distance. However, you look at his 2-turn races, Charlie, all the races at Oaklawn that he ran last year in the Razorback and the Oaklawn Mile and the Oaklawn Handicap, all of those races are 2 turns. And one of them, the Oaklawn Handicap, being at 1 1/8 miles, there's definitely no first missions in here. I'll tell you that for free. And people are saying that this horse is better 1 turn or whatever. He got back-to-back 130s earlier this spring running 2 turns. I'm very, very interested in this horse on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, this is big time for me as well, because I remember last year when we covered this, I think you and Pat also tried to beat Skippy, and I just said it won't happen, and then he was just going to get loose on the lead, which happened. I just think this is the year where it's just not going to work for him that way, and that's where the concern is going to be. I think he won't get the lead. I think there's going to be others in front of him, and unfortunately, instead of just being able to sit off, I think that he's going to try to sit too close to a pace that's going to actually make him work for once, and where he's probably not even getting the lead. And I just think Banishing sits right off of him and the others they're going to be setting for the lead, and then just turns for home and is right there. For Banishing, what just makes him so special to me is he's running all these different tracks. He's running all these different distances. He's running so often. And within all of that, if you look, outside of his race in the Blame, he has finished first or second in every single race that we can see with him. So, yeah, I mean, he's just ultra consistent in game as hell, regardless of who he faces. I mean, he was running against Mindframe. He was running against Nice. He was running against some of the biggest names in our sport right now, that you would argue, if they were running against a lot of these others that you would say has no chance in hell. And like you said, even with that and like Pat mentioned, all the difficulty he went through in that race, he's just such a game horse. He always runs his race. It doesn't matter the conditions. It doesn't matter the track, doesn't matter the pace, doesn't matter this. He like that. That's the thing for me is he is just so versatile. It truly doesn't feel like there's a single race, distance, pace, scenario, track where he can't perform. And that's where I like him. And my concern with Skippy is you're going to get a horrible price, as well as that he's pretty much the opposite of that. Now, I know he had that one weird race at Gulfstream where like he low-key was actually able to sit off and sort of rated and was able to get up for third. And you're like, did Skippy? And we were all like, I think after it was like, was that Skippy who rated and went on to get third? But outside of that, for the most part, in all of his successful efforts, he doesn't pass and he has to get to the lead. And I just don't see that happening this time. You're going to get a terrible price on him. He's also 6 now, and at least to me visually, I know he just faced here a little bit. To me, I think he also is starting to regress. This just seems like, as someone who refused to bet against him last year, I think this is the time to beat him. And Banishing just makes too much sense unless we all end up mushing him. But unless the mush kicks in, it shouldn't happen. Yeah,
I agree with you completely. Again, it's just one of those horses, Pat, you have this. I mean, it's a great story for that matter. He's, again, we talked about this a lot. $37,000 purchase. He's made almost $3.7 million. No one has won the Charlestown Classic 3 years in a row. It would be a fantastic feat to watch, and it absolutely could happen. But this is the time for me to play against. I completely agree with you, Charlie, on that. You both have the number 8 Gould's Gold in there in third. And I'm honestly, and Matt McJunkin says he loves Comarabino Amoide to get a piece. I give that horse a long look as well to get in third. So I completely agree with Matt there. Fantastic contest player, Matt McJunkin. But you guys both have Gould's Gold. Pat, I'll let you talk first. Charlie, feel free to add anything. Kenny McPeak, Brian Hernandez.
Yeah, no, listen, I think with Gould's Gold, I was just not. I usually am very pleased with the way Brian Hernandez rides. I was not pleased in the Cornhusker how he put the horse on the rail and stayed on the rail. I know he likes to do that quite often, but I just didn't like that race last out. And I do think obviously this horse needs to improve, but this horse is pretty well meant otherwise. And I don't know if this pace breaks down a little bit. I feel like this horse has a big shot, but I don't know about you guys. It's just the pace. It's just the speed figures that kind of hold me back a little bit. It has to improve.
Yeah, and Charlie, I mean, yeah, it's absolutely. He has to just improve a little bit. But at the end of the day, can he do it? I mean, he absolutely could do it. It's just a matter of, will he be able to put it together 3 turns, mile and an eighth here for $1 million, really?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, to me, I think you could argue if anybody in this race wants him with this sort of distance and setup, I think it is this 8 horse. I think just the benefit for me is I feel like, he's had to deal with some colder paces, which doesn't work towards his favor. In this race, he should be getting that pace. Again, I think, this is one that wants as much distance as possible, and the 3 turns should only help. Again, I just don't think he's quite at the class of, the 1 or 4, but I do think with the pace scenario, and with it being 3 turns in this mile and eighth distance, I just think it all works out well enough that he makes a ton of sense to get up for a piece. And I don't think it's entirely impossible that now, again, I know Skippy's been incredible, but I don't think it's impossible that he doesn't finish top 2. So for me, this would be one I'd even be inclined to maybe make some sort of small exacta bet under Banishing, because you'll get the value there. And again, I just think with the pace scenario and the way with the distances and the turns, I don't think this 8 can't get up for second even. Doesn't just have to be third.
Yeah, and I mean, Comarabino Amoide meets that same exact criteria. It's just a matter of which long shot do you like the most. Diodoro's ran this horse everywhere under the sun and ran very well down at Lone Star, ran very well in the winter at Fairgrounds, finishing ahead behind Hall of Fame and a length and a half behind your future. I always get the 2 mixed up. I don't remember. I think it was the Dubai Cup or the Dubai race that Hit Show won, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Was it Saudi? It was a Dubai. I get those 2 mixed up all the time. I'll put my hand up on that one. That is on me to remember. The Dubai World Cup. Thank you very much. I'll at least take that as a win for the home team. But look, he can absolutely catch a piece. I went with Awesome Aaron to catch a piece. Same type of thing that he ran super good mile and a 16th and a mile and 3/16 at both Oaklawn and Pimlico respectively. However, this is another thing. If he can get back to that 100-400, he absolutely can at least hit the board, if not make him a win contender as well. Just a matter of what version of Awesome Aaron shows up on Saturday in the Charlestown Classic. We are all going with Banishing on top. I'm going 1-4-2. Pat's going 1-4-8. Charlie's also going 1-4-8. Patrick, moving on to best bets. You have one best bet for me, but actually first, hold on. I wanted to bring up, man, I haven't seen in a long time, Mr. Penn State Scott. Banishing versus Skippy is Ohio State versus Michigan. Tell me I'm wrong. However, I'll tell you what is that there's definitely no room for only all of us being on one side in that game of debate. I'll tell you that for sure, Penn State Scott. But fantastic to see you in the chat again, Penn State Scott. Always love that when you watch the show. Guys, going on to best bets, I already hinted at Patrick's a little bit. Going race 10 a double, you're going to single in the Charlestown Oaks, the horse that you and I both like a lot, the number 1, Indy Bay. Going with, in the Charlestown Classic, Banishing and Skippy. Just second choice by first and second choice, hoping to get a little bit above a middling price on the doubles for both of them and make out with a day on one bet.
Yeah, I'm against Vodka with the Twist in the Charlestown Oaks. So my thing is, if I could get the second choice with Indy Bay and into the top 2 choices in the Classic, I'll be happy. I think it's those 2. I really don't like anybody else or have a strong opinion, maybe play some exactas with Gould's Gold. But other than that, I mean, this is a fun card. I'm glad we get to cover it again, guys. It's nice to cover a Friday night card, right? Leads us into Saturday into Saturday is going to be a circus with that card at Saratoga. So, but good show, and I was glad we got to cover this again.
Again, it's the Bettin N Boozin tradition, my friend. That's what you got to do. And out of tradition for Bettin N Boozin, I will go second. How about that?
Hello.
2 win bets, guys. It's as simple as that. Win on the number 8 Gunmetal, giving him one last chance. Third choice, 4-1 on the morning line. Have to imagine the pace scenario develops in some type of regard. And if he's going to come running late, Brad Cox, Luis Saez at third choice, I would gladly take that for sure. In race number 11, I talked why I like Banishing so much. Win on the number 1 Banishing in this race, and I can even go a double or a pick 3 for that matter with Indy Bay, with Banishing, with Gunmetal, maybe one other in there. But win 2 crisp win bets to hopefully get me out for the day, just like it did last year with Mystic Lake at 6-1. I don't have a 6-1 choice on here. However, 2 4-1, 7-2 choices should be able to be nice and easy for me. Charlie, I'll let you, I got to put them in still, but that's another host fail for me, but you can feel free to keep talking about it. You started in race number 9 with a win on number 3.
Yeah, so I decided to change things up a little bit because we'll get to in a moment. So I went to do the Charlie Freeman old-fashioned of doing actually 3 best bets when we're supposed to do at most 2. The first one is in race 9, going with the number 3 Neo Equos to win. Look, again, this is just a horse I've been sold on for a while. I've seen some of his strong efforts at Gulfstream and seen him go head-to-head with some of the best horses in his division, like, Tapan Street and Sovereignty. And
your transitive property Derby winner, Tapan Street to you, my friend.
Okay, sure. But and to me, I'm willing to toss the Derby effort out. I think it was Matt maybe had pointed out in the comments as well that, his race was sort of messed up immediately by the Citizen Bowl. I don't know how I want to word that because I don't want to get canceled, but the ride on Citizen Bowl and that effort was unique. So I like him there. I like the spot. I think he'll sit off and get a good pace scenario. I like that Safi had been aggressive with where to put him in the past, and makes me think that he truly does think this one has a big future for the connections. The second bet for me is going to be a reverse tri-key of Andrea and just mix this horse up underneath. I do think Vodka with a twist will win that race, but I also think it's pretty open. I'd probably realistically, even though I didn't have Indy Bay anywhere, after hearing what you guys had to say, would mix that one on top in these tries as well. But I'm really sold on Andrea. Coming off of back-to-back buyer tops, I think this one is really going to progress, and this is the staff you want to be on. And if I get, at least 8-1 on this one, which I think I will, should be one that would pay nice being mixed in around underneath, and would probably put a small Insanity win bet as well. And then going into Banishing, I'll just be brief because we already talked about this one. I just don't like the scenario this year with the pace scenario for Skippy Longstocking, and I think he's 6 now. I think he's going to be on the decline. And then I also just think Banishing has been so ultra consistent that I think this is finally the time that Skippy loses his crown. It was a nice run of 2 years, but this time I think Banishing gets it done in the future.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, and good luck with your best bets, Charlie. Before we sign off, Charlie, I wanted to bring you on screen because I want to talk to you. I'm sure you want to talk to our viewers about what you got going on over the next, at least for a couple of months here, as you start on your next phase in life, which should be a very exciting one.
Yeah, so as you guys can see, I made my caption, which used to be Mr. Everything, since we haven't gotten to cover Gulfstream in so long, which, is what happens when it's summertime at Gulfstream. I changed my name to Mr. Law School. And obviously for me, that is because I just finished day 1 of orientation of law school. So the next 2 days will be my last 2 days of orientation before next week officially starts my first week of classes. Already have homework assignments for it. Obviously with law school, it's very different. It's called professional school for a reason. It is basically, more of a job and a massive time commitment compared to, the undergrad that I was just in, or, going to a regular graduate school. Now I am back at Ohio State, but no, this is not me taking a 5th year or continuing undergrad. I am returning to Ohio State for now. It'll end up being in total 7 straight years as I start law school now. And basically because of that, I just realistically know I can't make the guaranteed time commitment to the podcast. I've talked extensively behind the scenes, with, Boss Man, shout out to him for his birthday, as well as Kyle and some of the others before making this decision. But ultimately for me, while I think I could potentially make the time to consistently go on the show, if I want to be able to do what's right to me and to the fans and you guys viewers watching and actually give my in-depth analysis and do the proper handicapping research, I just won't have the consistent time for that. So basically what's going to happen going forward is I'm going to be more of a spontaneous guest who basically, when I have times in law school where maybe I have some more downtime and more availability, I will end up appearing on the show. But for the most part, basically assuming that I won't be appearing on camera for the foreseeable future. Now, during winter break, I will be going back to Florida. I will be at Gulfstream. So I will be on the podcast during winter break. I will be on during spring break. I will also, during winter break, try to go on for both this podcast and potentially some of the other ones whenever we cover Gulfstream to sort of make up for lost time. And again, you may see me before winter break from time to time periodically. And of course, you can still keep up with Twitter. I'll always make time to give some of my classic Charlie big takes and, horse racing or sports. But yeah, just wanted to give an update. No issues, nothing wrong with podcast at all. Everything is still good. Just simply have to focus and put law school first for now. But I'll be excited to make my returns when I can. And at the very least, you guys will still be seeing me during the Gulfstream winter meet.
Yeah, no, trust me, man. We'd love to have you, but of course we understand the time commitment. We'll see you back for sure. And hopefully, it ends up going so well for you that it doesn't take up that much time and you can still show up for Wednesday nights. But man, Pat, I'll tell you what, these shows could be like 40 minutes now. This is going to be huge for us. This is a big turn of events.
Charlie, good luck, man. Obviously, we'll see you here and there, but it's been a pleasure consistently every Wednesday to be with you. And listen, kill it in law school, and hopefully you get a few wins on Saturdays, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, now I can finally, when I go on my crazy rants and everything, when I come back to bring it back, I'll actually know the legal terms to make better arguments.
And he let himself in. I didn't even have to do it.
I just wanted to say hello. You guys can hear me, right? We're
yes,
all good.
Sir. Yep.
I just wanted to wish Charlie a lot of great luck and success at law school. I think we know someone that did pretty well in law school that could help you if you have any questions. But it's an amazing opportunity. We know you're going to do awesome. This is not a goodbye because, like you said, you'll be back on a interim basis and popping in and out, and we'll be looking forward to hearing your rants and everything. But Charlie, before you leave, you got to give real quick thoughts on OSU UT, assuming you're not going to be on next week at all.
Yeah, no, and I will be at that game. I can't guarantee I'll have time to go to every game, but I can promise you there's no way I don't make it to that one. Look, it's going to be a tough game. Obviously, we just had Julian Sayin announced as the starting quarterback, which I'm very happy about. I had a feeling as soon as he transferred from Bama, there was no way he wouldn't be the starter. Look, still have some solid defense, but we did lose a lot of guys to the draft on both sides of the ball. Still have the best receiver and best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith. Honestly, if Sayin's quarterback play is good enough, I think Jeremiah Smith will be a Heisman contender. Still have a loaded wide receiver room. Running back's going to be a question, obviously losing Travion and Judkins. And then Texas is loaded. Obviously, they have Arch Manning now who's going to start, the guy who is believed to be the number one pick before we've even seen him actually be a full-time starting quarterback, and a guy who likely won't even declare for next year, which makes me sad as a Saints fan because I think the Saints are going to be terrible, and I want Arch Manning to be the next quarterback of the Saints. So I think that alone speaks volumes for a guy who we haven't seen be a full-time starter to what I think of him. It's going to be a really tough game. They're ranked number one for a reason, but they also have to come play in the shoe. I think if it was a night game, I'd feel a lot more confident in us, but unfortunately, big noon kickoff has kind of been holding Ohio State hostage and making them repeatedly play noon games, which is just a disgrace because night games are so much better. But no, this is going to be an interesting season overall. Obviously, Julian Sayin starting as QB as well as that we get to play Texas and Penn State, the number one and number two teams at home. So I'm very excited to see it. But no, it's going to be a really tough game. That's the best way to say it. It's a very tough game. I don't know where I lean yet.
He's going out on the perfect note. This is exactly the way we want it.
This is what I need.
This is why I wanted to do it. We need a full-blown Charlie before we leave. Charlie, I love the excuses Pat already lined up. The noon start. They haven't played a game yet, mind you. But the noon start somehow is gonna trip them up. Charlie, we love you, man. Good, honestly, good luck. I don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak. It should be a great. It's pick'em, right? I think last time I think
OSU's like -2 the last time I checked, or -2.5.
Okay, all right.
But either way,
anyway,
I was gonna say, but will they cover? That's the correct answer. We all want to know is will they cover? But this is a betting channel after all. But of course, Charlie, really at the end of the day, we hope you do well. And we'll definitely see you back on the podcast. If not, hopefully a lot, at least intermittently to get on, because at least going to need you on for 1 week this year, because you know the week I'm talking about, because it hopefully should be an even better fight as it has been in the past couple years, even though we've won every one. So I can't even say that we've been bad. But at the end of the day, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. It's been another great edition of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast, covering, as we've mentioned multiple times on this show, a Bettin N Boozin tradition now going 3 years running, covering the Charlestown Classic card and their mandatory payout, no carryover PICK5 that ends in the Charlestown Classic Stakes. And until next time, everyone, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.
Take care, Charlie. Love you, buddy.